two chairs, so you guys can sit right here.
Right. It's a PDF, not a PowerPoint.
I did, yes.
Alright. Anything fun on the agenda tonight?
No, we just got a couple of small resolutions, and then like we worded those, and then you could just adopt.
Oh, yeah, no. And I'm also not particularly free on basics.
So this morning, Troy got we got the
Oh, it's like like an addition to the TIP or to the CHIPS funding.
chips, but it's all to do.
Very advantages of that funding.
It's all part of this whole.
We're live.
You're live? We're live. So it's all-
Thank you.
So it's all part of this story. You know, if you're on this one power, so like 32, something. What happened to possible? Absolutely.
I can understand how to do
It's up to you. I mean, we can't make it next one. So, because we're gonna project over something, you know.
right, but I like.
Okay.
Probably
I was up at the third floor there, it's not very ADA compliant, I'm shocked that you guys still have meetings up there. Over there.
You want me to go farther away from you? Is it just sitting there until you go to?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our first in-person meeting that we've had in a long time. So to begin with, I'd like to ask everybody to stand and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, those open up the meeting. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Patel,
Present.
Councilman Cornwell. Present. Councilwoman Dodd.
Present.
The first thing on the agenda tonight that we have is I'd like to recognize the Citizen of the Month that we've actually had started a couple of years ago. And what I'd like to do is ask the members of the Redemption Church to come up front, please.
You need me to take photos too while I'm here? Video?
Maybe what you do.
How about that? We'll go around.
my email. Tonight, we want to recognize Redemption Church and all its members for the help and service to the Watervliet and surrounding communities. We started running food distribution programs in and around April, probably just a little bit after COVID started. When we realized that COVID was having some serious financial pressures on our residents, we started these food pantries. Recognizing the need to be here longer, or that COVID was going to be longer, we enlisted the help of Redemption Church. They were amazing. They were a godsend. They immediately took up the job of organizing thousands of pounds of food delivered and then passing it out to the general public. They did not close up shop because of the virus, but embraced it with the commitment to serve the public. They never retreated or seemed to tire out because they went from a monthly event to running them now twice a month. Their energy is just amazing. Laura Masry, Michelle Wilton just kept asking, what more can we do for the residents of Watervliet? They still run the program for the church located on 6th Avenue twice a month. In addition, they provide hot meals on Tuesdays and deliver them to many of our residents as well. On behalf of the City Council and every resident of Watervliet, I want to thank you and want to ask Michelle and Laura to accept the certificate and a sweatshirt as a token of our appreciation for all your group of dedicated volunteers have done for our residents. Thank you very much.
Becky Williams, could you please come up?
No, Becky, come on up, Becky.
Please come up. She's an intricate part. of
Becky's
what
been,
we do.
every time I've been there, Becky's been there, and
And
Jen.
she's faithful, and we couldn't do it without her. Thank you very much.
You have to,
Enjoy it.
this here is a sweatshirt that we wanted you to fight over.
Thank you.
Okay, you can share that, and it's just a little, certificate that we'd like to give you.
Thank
just to
you
say
very
thank you.
much.
It's
We
only,
appreciate
it's
it.
not even close to what you guys have done.
We appreciate it.
but We wanted to make sure we recognize it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Done like that. What do you think?
Dave, can you hear this? Can you hear this? You can't hear it. Is this on?
The light on
It's green. It's not. Just make sure we get that volume so we can get this thing. How's that working? That better? That better? No?
Nothing. There we
There
go.
you go.
Can you hear me now?
Go easy on that.
Okay, the next what I have on the agenda is I'll ask the reading of the minutes of the previous meeting.
Mayor, I will make a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the April 1st meeting.
I'll second that.
Call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Diamond,
In favor?
Councilman Torrенcello. In favor. Mayor Patricelli.
In favor. One more thing before we get into our next presentation, I'd like to introduce everybody to our new chief of police, Joseph Santana. For those that don't know, this is now being recorded live, so nobody. Joe, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. This evening, what we're gonna have is a presentation. This still is not working, okay. Well, you can hear me anyway. The city of Watervliet and the city of Troy collectively got together and put a bridge study, a Congress Street bridge study. Back in 2019, we were awarded funding to jointly look at, and Lindsay Zeppelin from Alta Planning is gonna take us through the process this evening. But look at jointly connecting the two communities. Congress Street Bridge has always been connected with the city of Watervliet and the city of Troy, but this project here is going to make it a pedestrian and bike-friendly bridge moving forward. A lot of safety improvements that'll happen within both communities. I'm going to take any of Lindsay's presentation away, so I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay Zeppelin.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for manning the presentation for me. Thank you to everyone. As Joe gets settled in, this was a really exciting project for us. I think that this, everything that's come out of the study has a really great possibility and opportunity to transform both communities, as well as provide a vital link between the two. So Joe, we're gonna click through the first two slides pretty quickly. I'll run through study area. I'm Lindsay Zapting with Alta Planning and Design, principal. You all know Joe. So our study area, this is a follow-up to the LWRP funded by New York State DOS. So we looked at the Congress Street Bridge as well as the area immediately surrounding it. So Hudson Shores Park, but also extending slightly into Watervliet, slightly into Troy, and looking at really multimodal connections and area improvements. So we focused on, first and foremost with this study, is what are the priority projects? What are the catalyst projects that are really going to spark and create momentum for everything else? We identified a total of 7 priority projects, 4 of which are related or in the city of Watervliet, and I'll cover those tonight. This is an overall view of the priority projects as you see them kind of put together. So I suggest to everyone take a look at the project in more detail and come back to this vision later on. But this is how it'll look kind of all coming together, the connection to Hudson Shores Park, across the bridge, and the new connection in Troy as well. So the first priority project is a shared use path on the Congress Street Bridge. In simplest terms, it's creating an actual pedestrian connection, a more robust pedestrian connection. There are existing sidewalks now, but anyone that's walked across the bridge is not comfortable, and you can't do it anytime there's snow. So this is creating a shared use path as well as a bicycle facility. Right now, unless you are a strong and fearless cyclist, you're not biking across that bridge. So the actual improvement to the shared use path, the bridge itself, we estimate between $1 and $2 million. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not that expensive. It'll also reduce vehicular speeds, so also make it safer for drivers as well. So the idea here is to essentially leave the median barrier exactly where it is today, but shift all vehicular traffic to the north side of the bridge, creating 2 lanes of vehicular traffic. There's more than enough capacity within those 2 lanes to carry the traffic that's on the bridge today, and it leaves the whole southern half of the bridge to create a shared use path. So this isn't just creating a space for pedestrians and cyclists, but actually an inviting space. So what we incorporate in the design here is pedestrian overlooks. So overlooks, you can actually sit, enjoy the river. And a key element here is landscaping. I drive my son, who's 4, over this bridge, and he says, "Mommy, why aren't the trees there yet?" Because I keep telling him this is the plan. So there's a lot of possibilities, but just safety is the first and foremost, but comfort and making this an inviting connection between the 2 communities by incorporating those other elements. And this is a photo simulation of what the bridge would look like as transformed. So to be able to enjoy that whole southern half of the bridge, have a leisurely walk, enjoy the view of the Hudson Rivers, down Albany, even the Catskills from that view. It can either be done in a first phase or a second phase of actually replacing the bridge railing that's there. So it's a pedestrian safety railing that doesn't block your view like the chain link fence does now. The second priority project within Watervliet, and this ties directly to the bridge, is improving the intersection of 19th and 2nd Ave. This is a core intersection for transit connectivity, pedestrian connectivity. It's a gateway to the city of Watervliet, and it shouldn't be as vehicle-centric as it is today. So with a few improvements, it'll connect to the bridge project, it'll shift that traffic to the north, but also provide some traffic calming and make it more comfortable for pedestrians. What that intersection would look like. One of the key elements that we're introducing here is mountable corner radii. So the same type of treatment that you see in roundabouts, they've got that mountable island, doing that on the corner instead. The radii is so big at that intersection to accommodate the trucks and the buses that have to navigate the intersection. But it means that vehicles can whip around those corners at twice the speed they should be able to. So by introducing that mountable island, it creates a bit of a refuge island for pedestrians, shortens the crosswalk distance, slows vehicles down, being the key element here, and creates a more inviting environment and a gateway treatment. The other thing we're able to include by reducing the second lane in Refuge Island. The westbound approach, the east side of the intersection, is the longest crosswalk, and also has vehicles, at higher speeds coming off the bridge. So creating where it kind of breaks up the crosswalk is the idea here, and as well as introducing some additional landscaping. So as you can see, it really tightens down the intersection. The next priority project was connecting to Hudson Shores Park, a southern connection. We all know, 23rd, the northern entrance to the park is the primary entrance, is the entrance to the park, but it really leaves a disconnect for the residents on the southern half of the city. So how do we make this southern connection to Hudson Shores Park? And we considered a number of different alternatives coming off the bridge itself, but really a tunnel underneath 787 is the option that won the day. Joe, if you want to move on to the next slide. So making the connection all the way up to Second Ave with protected bike lanes, the sidewalk already exists, and then creating this nice gateway entrance for just bicycles and pedestrians, excuse me, to the southern entrance of Hudson Park. If DOT approves an open cut construction, this project's actually pretty affordable, between $1 and $2 million to actually put in this tunnel underneath 787. It would include lighting, make sure drainage is all accounted for, and so it becomes a safe access way. And there's already emergency access to the park, so it wouldn't accommodate that. And this is, you can see a photo simulation of what it would look like coming down 6th Street. It would be a nice gateway entrance to the tunnel at that point.
And picture that, Lindsay, so not pictured, but the McDonald's in theory would be to the right of that photo. Right?
Correct.
And the left would be sort of post office and all that, right?
Yep, the green markings that you can see on that image right there is the driveway to the McDonald's. And it creates a nice direct connection to the new bike path that was just installed this past year. The final priority project within Watervliet is 23rd Street improvements. So on the northern part of the city, this is the other gateway into the city of Watervliet, and it is an access to a highway, and it is designed that way. Not as a gateway treatment, not to calm traffic as you come into or out of the city, and certainly not as a pedestrian or bicycle corridor to the northern end of Hudson Shores Park. There's been a lot of improvements recently with the connection of the shared use path that connects to the park, but we're proposing taking it a few steps further with some additional traffic calming, narrowing of that roadway, and reclaiming some of that pavement. So as you can see, there's a lot more green space in what we're recommending. So really narrowing the pavement that's there, better defining the turning lanes, so that vehicles know what to expect from other vehicles, so that they're driving slower, realigning the southbound entrance so that you don't have fast moving vehicles coming off that. We also included in the concept the idea of those mountable corner radii again, to slow some of those turning movements. So this would be a much more fluid pedestrian connection into Hudson Shores Park. We came up with some other alternatives for the intersection that could be longer term, actually proposing some what we call a dog bone roundabout. It's a dual roundabout with the exits. That would be a longer term improvement that could be considered for this corridor as well. The other part of this project that could be an add-on or treated separately is actually enhancing the entrance to Hudson Shores Park, creating a lookout, some additional picnicking areas, really defining that parking, and really defining the entrance to Hudson Shores Park. On top of the priority projects, which again are the catalyst and the emphasis of the project, we also had a number of general recommendations that I'll walk through really quickly. So Joe, keep up with me, just keep looking through. The first of which was how we pull this all together as a loop trail. All the priority projects together create half the loop. So actually making the full loop connection across the Green Island Bridge, so you have this 2-mile loop between the two communities, 3 communities really, when you include Green Islands. City of Troy recently got funding for the connection across the Green Island Bridge. So hopefully that'll be implemented this year. So we're one step closer to this loop trail. The other general recommendations is really completing the bicycle and pedestrian connectivity. Now that you've gotten people either interested in coming to Watervliet to experience the bridge and the new shared use path, or you've gotten residents to walk over the bridge into the city of Watervliet, now where do they go? How do they connect into the community, and how does the community connect to these new assets? So what we've recommended is a series really of bike boulevard networks, low volume, local streets with some additional traffic calming to keep speeds low, volumes low, and make it more comfortable for cyclists to share the road. One of those is making a direct connection. You already have the sidewalk along the bridge down to connect 2nd Ave down to the shared use path. Let's make that an inviting one. So actually widen that path out, including landscaping and other elements really between this new asset and 2nd Ave. Building off of what was proposed, the boulevard treatment on 2nd Ave and the DRI is an additional enhancement, actually bookending the corridor with 2 urban roundabouts, small roundabouts, but it makes those right in work a lot better to have that turning movement at the end of the corridor. And then we also put together a new section for 2nd Avenue, which would, Joe, next slide, which would have the boulevard treatment, traffic, but also provide a separate bicycle facility. The bike lanes have been great, but to encourage even more users to get on their bicycles, you want a separated facility. So we'll take that facility to the next level. 21st Street was one of those corridors that we identified for the bike boulevard treatment, along with 23rd Street, and that was in the bike plan that was done. So 5th Avenue, the section in front of the Price Chopper, that's a busier corridor and actually wider, so we can accommodate bike lanes there to really complete the network to connect into that downtown core. And then one of the other things we recommended is amenities. And this isn't just bike racks. You know, people want to be able to park their bike if they're gonna go downtown and visit businesses, but also benches. So people are walking around and they wanna take a seat. Bike repair station, what happens if you have a flat? It's these little things that make the experience that much more enjoyable. And then 16th Street and 5th Ave is another major bike boulevard corridor that will connect to that tunnel and also connect into that portion of Watervliet neighborhoods. And a cross section of what that bike boulevard would look like. Again, they're just shared lane markings with the introduction of traffic calming elements like neighborhood traffic circles, curb extensions, speed humps, and the frequency and where they get implemented varies depending on how much you actually want to reduce speed and reduce volume. And our next steps. So the next step, we have our final study at this point, is to adopt this study in both communities and seek funding, which we are actively working on. Joe, anything else to add?
I think it was a fantastic project. You can see now why we put the brakes on the project in the beginning. The first idea for this project was to have just a connection coming off the bridge and down into the park. And we knew that we could do so much more, not only with connectivity to the park, but for the community as a whole. So we kind of stopped the project and came up with these points that we could look at for the community that would enhance our community much better than we had currently. So Lindsay, I can't thank you enough. It's been an excellent project, and we certainly met the timeline. I know it was a compressed timeline.
It was, but I like it that way.
Yes. Any questions of the council?
No, nothing, I think it was great.
You did an excellent job.
Fantastic, we're thrilled with you, Lindsay.
We were on a lot of the meetings and they were very well done. Thank you.
It was a pleasure working with all of you.
A few minutes for a couple questions here.
Yeah, of course.
Is this available online so that we can look at it and decide?
Yeah, we're gonna be adopting at our next meeting on May 5th. We've had several stakeholder meetings, so this is a finalized draft, but we'll certainly have it available.
Don, I believe I sent an email out with the link to it.
Yeah,
If you want to borrow this, you can borrow this
I'd
one.
rather have it at home on mine so I can sit and look at it.
You want to borrow this?
we'll send you.
Yeah, I'll get your link, but I know it was on, I'm almost sure I sent you an email, but I'll do it again.
And both public meetings are posted online through both the Watervliet website as well as the City of Troy website. So if you want to take a look.
Who's funding this project?
Well, that's what we're going after now, Mr. Yuan. That's the type of thing these projects do. They give you the $10,000, the 10,000 foot view, and then it's up to us to go out and look for funding streams that are out there to enhance them. There was some funding that came available to us as of today that has to do with the tour. We can take any of those funds and maybe make some of those realizations in this
Is the
project.
city involved in funding this
Was the city involved in funding this program?
project?
Yeah, we got money from the state for this, and then there was a matching component, 15,000 from the city of Watervliet and 15,000 from the city of Troy.
15,000, not very much.
For the outcome, it was a
Just
fantastic.
enough to pay Lindsay.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
Now it's incumbent on the city of Watervliet and the city of Troy to work together to go out and to seek funding to finalize this, to start building and construction of this project.
so
The money that was spent was only for this, for the study, to create this plan. And now it's the city of Watervliet and the city of Troy's
let's look at it on the pessimistic
to
side.
seek funding.
Supposing funding is not obtained, then what?
Well,
then we have a study that we're just gonna continue to work for.
yeah, I mean,
But you know what, you don't just look for state funding, you look for what development may come and what are those monies that development can pay for. We saw the private, to us last year, in 2020 during a pandemic period. So when things start to loosen up and we start to see economic development coming, what are those things that incentives can pay for? Someone wants 6 apartments versus allowance of only 2 or 4, well, they can pay for those extra amenities, and part of this could be some of these projects. So we have to be creative in our funding.
Is that involved in this?
There will be, oh God.
Yeah, I was gonna say that we've been keeping a really close eye on the new infrastructure bill that Biden's proposed. We're expecting a number of new funding streams as well as new money being added to existing funding streams for projects exactly like this. And this is the focus of the current, federal administration is, these types of communities, multimodal projects, and we essentially touch all the points that will be looked at for federal funding.
Well, one thing comes to my mind, the ladies brought up the point of safety.
Yes.
Now, whoever designed the bike path, and I think you know what I'm talking about, in front of the arsenal, that is a complete headache. Really hurt.
We actually did, Mr. Yuvan. In one of our meetings when we were in the course of the pandemic, when we were on Zoom, I think it was probably somewhere about late January, early February, we talked exactly about the arsenal, where you come off the bike path and then you come back onto the road. We talked about bollards. We talked about additional striping. What you're not seeing right now is that final striping on the roadway. In fact, May 4th or May 5th, we're going to start milling Broadway to get ready for final pavement and the installation. Show that delineation between where you drive and where the bike path is. And with that will become, a little bit more safety enhancements that we didn't show before.
Thank you.
So, anything else of the?
You presented the Watervliet side. I have to ask you on Troy side. Since currently, if you go over the bridge on the south side, you end up walking all the way halfway to the old Chuck Road plant before you can start going west or east. Where is it going to terminate on that side of the bridge?
So you can see, unfortunately, it's smaller on this slide, but the other half of the bridge project is reconfiguring the intersection in Troy. And it's going to be removing the 2 ramps that are there and actually configuring it into a 4-leg intersection with River Street. So you'll be able to take the right onto River Street, go under the tunnel. And the city of Troy is working on a project that will actually convert Ferry Street to 2-way traffic, improving that circulation. And with the additional vehicle lane that they're not using on Congress Street, they're going to be implementing a cycle track. And that's also detailed in the plan.
Okay.
And Don, I just sent you the link.
I'm going to give you your laptop so that you.
I will grab it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
guys don't have to spend. That requires. You got your sweatshirt now. You're welcome, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
We'll be in touch.
Okay. Joe, are you ready to walk around the committees?
Yes, we do have a couple of items here that I wanted just to get on the record. We started our goose program, this past Monday with DEC. Fortunately, no nesting at this time, but, we're gonna be making trips down there every couple of, weeks now during the course of the nesting period. Staying with the Hudson Shores Park, we had discussions about that overlook and the cantilever decking that we could possibly do. The Department of State was not enthusiastic about removing the amphitheater off of the study that we had, but certainly future discussions. So we're not going to lose track of that and keep moving forward for that. We're looking hard for summer employment for lifeguards. Right now we have 4 with it. We have every intention right now, unless any new guidance come out about opening up the pool, but we have every intention of opening up the pool this summer. We're working hard to get the pool house completed, and we're going to be installing the pump next week. So we're going to make sure we're moving forward with the intent to open up the pool this summer. We talked about city touring and road improvements. Today we were notified that $895,000 is coming to the city of Waterville for this type of improvement. The mayor and I went to a presentation today with the city of the Hose, and you know, we're learning a little bit more about this funding stream as to what the improvements can be and what we can use our money for. Lastly, paving. We're going to be dusting off last year's paving plan and also adding possibly, you know, some new locations to it. 8th Avenue is on Colony's paving plan this year. Our portion of that on 8th Avenue is about $80,000. We're going through pricing right now for the drop curbs that we're going to need on the corners of that. So we're probably looking at about maybe $120,000 for 8th Avenue alone. We're also looking at 3rd Avenue, 19th Street, Andrewsville Court will be paid, and 1st Avenue between 13th and 15th are the ones on the docket. If we can get more monies out of CHIPS, we have about 270 from 2021, 2020's money. I'm looking to, you know, just hold a little tight on that one because 8th Avenue, we don't have the full pricing on it as of yet. But we look to have probably about 130,000 for that too, correct? That's all I have, Mayor, for that.
Just a couple things, Joe. What did you lost me about the amphitheater down at Hudson Shores Park?
Yeah, so when the plan for Hudson Shores first came to me was
Years ago. Yeah.
2018, 2019, I think is the time frame, correct? There was an amphitheater proposed in there, along with improvements to a playground or installation of a playground. So those were the enhancements. It was more of a passive type of a use.
Yep.
But continuing on with the passive use would be the cantilevering of decking over, bringing people closer to the water. That's the intent of it, is shoreline stabilization to get people to.
Pylons are still, they're in the ground. They're in
The pylons are
yeah,
still there.
fine.
But one of the things about the amphitheater is when you start looking at the proximity to 7, we're right at the point where there's the slippery, you know, that comes into Waterville going into Green Island. So you got downshifting of truckers. So you got a lot of noise pollution that happens. So in an amphitheater, you could lose some of your, you know, things that are going on, if like music or presentations or plays.
Right.
That noise pollution can be very interruptive. That's one of the reasons why I'm not wedded 100% to the amphitheater use. Maybe change that for another enhancement that I think will get more use. Okay.
So you contacted.
We contacted Department of State and talked to our vendor, the moderator there, Lisa, and tried to convince her as to why we want to supplement that with something else.
The other things I gave, remember, I got a buddy who's involved with swim coaches, or
Yes.
he's the head of the Adirondack Blue Pins.
Yes.
He's trying to get lifeguard, but he doesn't. And he volunteered, and he just said, hey, if you want to connect me with the general manager or the mayor, we can work on it. And he just sort of said, I'm sure I can get you the lifeguards that you need if
Yeah.
if you're.
We're working with the city of Cohoes now
Okay.
too, so there might be some,
Yep, if you need it,
there might be some sharing there.
if you need his contact information or whatever, let me know, and I'm sure he'd be happy to help.
Yes.
Okay, that's it, sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Barb, you have any?
Yeah, well, actually, I was gonna ask a quick question. Is there any more discussion about trying to get some kind of a restaurant up at Hudson Shores Park, like?
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah,
that?
so, one of the things about that, Councilwoman, is, I haven't been, let's say, convinced that the city owns those piers that are currently in the water, or if it's actually the gentleman who owned, the barge at the time. We would certainly like to have some type of riverfront enhancement like that, some type of restaurant, some type of, maybe whether that be a permanent fixture or have another floating barge like that. But until such time, if we know who has that ownership of those piers, because if we want to use some of it for the cantilevering of a deck, enhances that, can we put something on that that's more of like a food vendor that comes in off of it? So I need to really get through and go through the legislation and everything else as to how those came to be. Now, unfortunately, with Jordan not here, Brian and I, and Lauren and I have to really dig into some deep, paperwork to find out the ownership to that.
I think we can find out simply, like, check with Bob Carlson. He was involved in it back then, so I'm sure he has some knowledge of it.
Yeah, I would hope somebody can, Mayor, because, we really can't seem to find, who truly owns. I know we shared, of putting the piers in, or not the piers, the decking every year. But I've actually, asked Kevin at one point, and no one said who owned what, so it's hard to figure out what we could do with it.
I can't imagine he would be.
I don't think so either. I would think we would have to put the bill on it, but.
Yeah, and I think what we were also talking about with the restaurant was, it was not out on the water, it was basically on the land portion, so it would not interfere with being taken up, moved out or anything. So it was basically almost something that we refer to as fair park conditions, they had their restaurant, but the city of Troy owns the land, correct? So, correct, okay. All right. If there's nothing else, I'll move into old business.
Your Honor, there is no old business on this evening's agenda.
Okay, we'll move into news business.
The first order of new business this evening is ordinance number 2043. This is an ordinance of the City of Waterville, New York, amending section 260, 30C, sign locations of the code of the City of Waterville.
And Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we move on the ordinance.
And I will second it.
I can speak to that. I know this was going on, under, the acting chief at the time, Lieutenant Strzok, worked at 1433 First Avenue. There was a request for handicap parking. We currently have a parking spot at 1435 First Avenue, which is the neighbor next door. This went through the police review, and the recommendation for the installation of such is before us today.
Very good. All right. If there's no other discussion, I'll ask you to call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Diamond,
In favor?
Councilman Torricello,
In favor.
Mayor Patricello.
In favor.
Resolution number 9820 is a resolution approving the hiring of Jefferson Solutions to perform the required GASB 75 actuarial valuation and authorizing and directing Mayor Charles V. Patricelli to execute a contract regarding same.
Mayor, I will make a motion that we move on resolution number 9820.
And I'll second that.
This
That'll be you,
is,
Amanda, the Gatsby.
this is a requirement by GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. We have this done, I believe, every 2 years. They project essentially our post-employment benefits or OPEB, and tell us what we need to include in our financial statements.
Basically, what they're telling you is, this is what you should be setting aside for your leave time.
For mostly health insurance and life insurance, pretty much.
They don't have anything to do with the leave time and, well, I remember we had to do the same type of, analysis that if we closed business up as of today, what would we want?
What would we, yeah.
And it never happens, but, you know, that's, but, let's say the recommendation, of course, is to fund that, nobody ever can, so. All right, anything else?
What is the cost?
3,700, what was it? 3,750.
Thank you.
Okay, if nothing else, I should call roll, please.
Councilwoman Diamond,
In favor?
Councilman Torrance,
In favor?
Mayor Patrichelli.
In favor.
Your Honor, the last order of business on this evening's agenda is ordinance number 2044. This is an ordinance of the City of Watervliet, New York, amending section 279-2, additional fees of the code of the City of Watervliet.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we move on ordinance number 2044.
And I will second that.
So this ordinance is before us this evening as a request from Dave Dressel in our water department. There's been a couple of times where contractors, like for example, at the old Avenue Cleaners on 19th Street, needed water from the city in order to keep asbestos down during the course of demolition. So this is a fee if a contractor comes that needs excessive water during the course of construction to either wet construction materials down or anything like that. There's a $75 per day tapping fee for the side of the hydrant. So we didn't have this type of fee in our structure before.
Because that was also, wasn't that the issue too for the fire hydrant at the,
Wet Willie's there?
yeah,
Wet Willie's at the car wash is
Car wash.
actually in Colony,
right?
but the water source actually came from the city water lead.
If there's no other questions, let's call a roll.
Councilwoman Diamond,
In favor?
Councilman Torrance,
In favor?
Mayor Patrichelli.
In favor.
Your Honor, that concludes the new business portion of this evening's agenda.
Anything other appropriations in the county?
None at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Good.
Before we go anywhere, I know Chief Santetti's been here for, seems like forever for you probably, right? But want to kind of give us a briefing as to where you've been thus far since your appointment?
Does everywhere answer it? We've been, I've had countless meetings with all of our partners, a lot of them who I knew, some of them I didn't. Everything's going very well with them. We have plenty of other resources from those particular agencies, any critical incidents, we'll get support. For some training, I had the first meeting today with the entire department. My first day at 3 o'clock, I met with the supervisor, so I'm still getting the lay of the land. There's a lot of changes coming with policy. And in the middle of that, we had some incidents that occur throughout the city, some people coming from other urban environments into this one. And the police officers have done an excellent job following the law, their training, and department policies, and getting those bad guys, so to speak. So I'm still learning much about them and some of the operational things going on with this department. But I feel very good, and nothing has made me want to rescind that over. I'm excited for what we're doing and what we're going to continue to do. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. One of the other things I neglected to also talk about from the CHIPS funding is today we learned that one of our vehicles, we were having one of our vehicles that we've had, it's probably 12 years old now. But Albany County was doing like a 100-point test and check on one of our vehicles. And, to put the thing, let's say, back into working order and getting it to being functional, be about $15,000. When you start looking at good money over bad, the CHIPS program allows you to buy, new trucks and new vehicles through that under the Fed, or under the allotment that you get. So I am keeping aside about $70,000 out of that, just in case we have to replace, but this will be a decision that the council will make. It won't be just by myself or Amanda, but we want to look really what our equipment is going to be in the upcoming winter, and we'll have that discussion.
Is it a car or a turbo kind of car?
It's actually, it's a 1.5 ton chassis, and we'll build it to have a small dump body on it with a V plow in front. We're looking at probably about 70,000. But what the smaller truck body, dump body does, it brings it down into more functional than to have the big internationals that we have. But we're just gonna look at that, but this will be a conversation that we'll have collectively as we go forward.
And one thing, Joe, again, I just need to reiterate the fact is that preventive maintenance schedule and vehicle maintenance schedule is paramount. 12 years old is not a long time for some trucks that we have, and the condition of those trucks, I think, is indicative of the maintenance. So going out and buying another one just because we need to is.
Absolutely. That's what I said. There'll be discussion around this before we
Just want to make sure we know that. The other thing on that too is that we did, have two of the pickups with plows on them. That's right. They both have V plows on them now, so, something that we've been looking at having for a while.
We're not gonna get any snow, don't worry.
No, it's a good sign. We bought it, paid for it.
It's that,
Yeah, we didn't have it.
Did you have some discussions with Albany County about some of their equipment?
No, we were gonna take it.
Yeah.
We were gonna borrow it.
Okay.
I think we found out where the key drawer is.
If you're talking about buying a truck, small dump truck,
Yes,
can I make a recommendation?
absolutely.
Do not buy an electric hoist. Because our past in dealing with the city, when I was in business, you put a load on it, the electric will not pick the body up. Go hydraulic.
Correct.
That's the recommendation,
Thank you.
past experience.
Thank you. Good.
Sure.
And speaking of Albany County, is there any plan to get back to cleaning out the sewers or the?
I sent an email to them, last week, and they are kind of behind on their schedule yet, but they know we're looking for it.
Okay, great.
They did 60 last year?
Yeah, 60
I
out.
think they did 60 last year. We're just hoping to say squeeze it in whenever you can.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's
That's right.
it.
They'll be there, they'll be
Don't
waiting
quote
to
me
be
on
first
that.
in
Yeah,
Yes.
well,
That's good.
it's kind of keeping the, the pressure on things.
Yeah.
Lunch within her computer.
I'm in.
Okay. So that's it for the rest of the meeting. We don't have anything else? We need to adjourn? Is that what you wanted?
Public comment.
Oh.
There's two of them still here.
Be a slave.
Well, we'll go into the public comment period. Paul's been waiting for this for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, you gonna open up public comment, please?
Absolutely. At this time, the council has authorized the public comment period. You will have 2 minutes
Oh, no.
with which to address the council on any items you wish. We only ask that you state your name and address for the record before you begin.
My name is Paul Huban, reside at 1500 12th Avenue, Waterville, New York. I have 2 minutes. I'd like to address my first comment to the city clerk, Mr. Wheatley. I have 2 minutes, but I have an additional 2 minutes. She has granted me the 2 minutes. She is the first lady of the city of Waterville, Mrs. Lynn Patricelli. She said I could have her 2 minutes, so I have 4 minutes.
I will make
Okay.
sure to speak with her.
All right, thank you. So I'd like to begin. I am here representing the AHEPA, which most people don't know what AHEPA is. It's a men's organization of the Greek Church. They do good works with homeless, food pantries, et cetera, et cetera. AHEPA stands for American Hellenic Educational Progressive Association. Now, I am here on their behalf to want to thank Mayor Patricelli and the council for giving us the opportunity to celebrate Greek Independence Day, which was March 25th, in which the mayor authorized the flying of the Greek flag over City Hall. In due respect for the mayor doing this, we would like to present him a picture of the ceremony that went on.
Get fired. Thank you.
Paul,
We're fast enough to get a photo.
just so you know, I stopped the clock.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, on a more serious note, I'd like to start by having a complaint in regard to Gallivan, which is adjacent to me on 12th Avenue. It seems though from o'clock in the morning till all day, those trailer dumps to get the load off the trailer, they're banging the gates very loud. I'm sure there's other people that are concerned. A couple of people mentioned it to me. Of course, I'm the big mouth that has to come up with it. Not only that, but there's a lot of air particles in the air from their operation over there. I think this was spoke to in the past, but I don't know if anyone has looked into it to see what could be done. I know people on the east side of the operation there, they're concerned. A fellow by the name of Pastori, I saw the other day, he appreciated if I would mention it, which I am. So the noise is very bad. I'm surprised that no one else has contacted the city in regard to that. So if someone could look into it, it would be appreciated.
Is it all day, Paul, or in the morning?
It's mostly all day,
All day.
all day. You know, they have the big trailer dumps and the load don't go off when it's wet and they gotta bang it, which I know because I was in the business, used to do the same thing. So anyway, that's one. The other issue I have is 19th Street. You know, we're all concerned about how the city looks. We talked about it and whatnot. Here's the main gateway to the city, and you come into it, you almost ruin your vehicle. Now, we talked about the blacktop replacements on excavations. That has gotten worse over the winter because of the frost heating the pavement, and it's really, really bad. I'm sure you rode over, especially the section between 4th, 5th, and 6th there. It's really bad. That really should be addressed. It doesn't send a good image to the city when you ride in and have that confrontation. Also, I know that the city, the men are busy and whatnot, but gonna have to get after potholes too. It's this time of the year, especially on 19th Street up by Highland Tank. There's one pothole right there that you can't get out of the way if there's another vehicle on the left. So that should be addressed. And I think my 4 minutes is almost up. But one last thing, and I want to remind my good friend Mayor that when you do Broadway from the tunnel to 21st Street, I guess it is, please raise the manholes or I will never forgive you. Thank you.
Joe, was that a topic of our conversation? Yes. Yes, that was. I don't want to go another few years, Paul, hearing about that.
Okay, Mayor.
There's only two of us, Paul. You want your paperwork?
Oh, yeah.
Don Whitehead, 1921 8th Avenue, Waterloo, New York. Hudson Shore Park is now open. What Hudson Shore Park does not have on a daily basis is a restroom. Years past, they put a portable porta-john down there to make one available because the permanent restrooms that are there, all the years they've been there, I've never been in them. Because they're locked all the time for various reasons. The Arsenal City section of the bike path was already mentioned. Could you please put barrels or something at the south end to keep cars from getting onto that section? The motorcycle that almost ran into me head-on the other day really got my attention. I looked at the zoning statute before I came here. It doesn't handle food trucks. What's the city's policy on food trucks? The reason I ask is there's one parked next to the ice cream stand on 19th Street. Rumor has it he's going to use that to get around his restriction to sell hot dogs and hamburgers inside the building.
It's not operational currently, is it? Because I see that
It's
when I
sitting
when I
there.
drive by, it's sitting there, right?
It's sitting
And
there.
I had the same, okay,
It won't be, we already talked to code enforcement on that.
yeah, okay.
There's no such thing as an accessory use in our code for something like that, so we've already had several conversations on that, so I appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
All right.
We also are ordering the porta john to be down.
Further-
We've had one down there before,
Yes, we have.
but they took it out. The
Winter months.
yeah, the bathrooms are only open when somebody's renting the facility. They open it and close it.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's it. Okay. Well, nothing else coming in front of the council and public comment, we'll close the comment period. Any other, anything else? No?
Okay, I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
And I will second that.
Clerk, call the roll.
Councilwoman Diamond,
In favor?
Councilman Torrcello,
In favor.
Mayor Patrichello.
In favor. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And again, this is, is live. It's not a Zoom, but it is live. And maybe that'll be something we might want to continue. Thank you.
Live on what?
Thank you.
Live on.
You too.
You too?
Hey, Steve.
There you go.